Start streaming. Let that get going. Let's get the couch bot up and running here so we can get eyes on our group. There we go. Oh, we got That's interesting. We got Abby there. Let's not update that. Looks like we are live. Let's see if CouchBot's going to fire for us. Be nice to see if it does. Okay, so we've got audio, which is nice. I'm going to listen to that for a second. All right, so that said, looks like CouchBot did just fire. So the alerts are out. You folks are, we're all strapped in. So let's go ahead and do this. Let's get back over here. All right. Greetings, one and all. Chris Courtney here, New Pragmatic. It's time for the feedback loop. So good to have you along. We've got, oh, goodness gracious, who have we got in here today? Well, we've got Eve, we've got Ricardo, we've got Bryn, and then Abby. I just saw a note from Abby, so we'll check in with her as well. We've got a lot of different. We're moving in a lot of different directions, and I want to make sure we have time to cover everything. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and let's go ahead and get started. All right, out of the gate, we've got Bryn's competitive matrix. She is doing competitive research regarding the fresh market project, and she's basically going through and looking for competitors to begin picking apart to better familiarize herself with the target market for the stakeholder. And one of the things that you mentioned here, Bryn, and I'm looking specifically over here, and you said you're struggling to find local competitors with a lunch subscription service. That's going to be an issue from time to time when you're moving into especially if you're moving into a new area. Sometimes you have to broaden out, and then there's a couple of ways that you can broaden that scope. One, while I know that the stakeholder talked about a lunch service, I do think that that's probably, a lunch service would be like I'm focusing on a breakfast service or I'm focusing on a dinner service. What I really want to focus on is like a food delivery service. So I would broaden it out away from a particular time, particular time or segment of the market. I would just look broader, because I don't necessarily know if we've figured out yet whether lunch is even going to be their thing. I think we need to, because is that really what the customer? We haven't talked to customers yet. We don't really know if there's even an appetite for that. Food joke or food pun. But the other thing I would look at here is I don't think it's a bad idea to take a look at a major national competitor either, because essentially, yes, you are going to be trading on the brand of that local market, because they're in the region, but they need to be competitive with a national player. They need to be operating on the same level with a HelloFresh or a Freshly. Everybody's got the fresh thing in their name, don't they? And I guess that's because nobody wants rotten food. Anyway, so I would broaden it out. I would look at, hey, who's a big national competitor, or who that I can pull into this mix. And that's going to get, the other thing I like about that is a lot of the local options, typically they're not the best designed experiences. I can tell you, Katie Katie went through and she found some from San Diego that were like really great ideas. Like conceptually, they were recycling their canisters, and you get a credit if you bring your if you reuse your food boxes and stuff. Like they had some interesting ideas, things that I haven't seen pop up from this exercise otherwise. But the design of their site was just ugh. So um so I would broaden it out when I'm looking through and looking at like positioning statement, features. Um, so here you've got Meal Pal, and this is more restaurant focused. But again, I don't think it's bad. I think what you're really looking at is okay. What's the pricing structure like? This is like a 20 meal lunch. This is 6 meals per week. Getting an idea of what people are seeing in the marketplace and how people structure that selling point is interesting. Um, Looking at the competitive advantages, ability to roll over unused meals, generous portion, sustainable packaging, like that goes back to that thing I was talking about this with the San Diego one. Um, Site is very annoying to navigate as a new user. This is again what I was talking about with a local outfit. No major design flaws. It's pretty intuitive. Some mismatch between system and real world using lifestyle boxes as the name for their subscription. A bit unpleasant having all the menu items on one page. So you're doing a good job of going through and I did see your heuristics doc, which was here. Or nope, that's first teacher. Heuristics was over here, and you were pointing out there were some interesting things that were happening. It's not incumbent upon us to break down why their site is kind of broken, but it is important for us to realize, like, oh, that's off-putting. That's not something we want to have in our design. We don't want to hide the X. These are things that in the prototype you're gonna definitely want to avoid. But I also think these are probably just errors on their site, which is not uncommon. The other thing you mentioned was is this site, which was front porch pantry, is this, first of all, it's nice. The Like, I'm geeking out over here. I'm like, I just want to tighten that up. That line height's just too much. Um, but it looks okay. I mean, there's definitely some stuff that I would want to tweak. But you were saying, like, I'm not sure if they're around, and I totally get that, because when you go to their Twitter, they haven't tweeted since like 2017. But if you look over on their Facebook, they not tweet it, but they post it 10 hours ago. So I definitely think they're still around. That they've got some material that is not great. Like, it just hasn't been updated a lot. Although somebody replied 4 days ago to something they posted in 2019. So um, they're still there. And again, I look at their Facebook page. They've posted since then, but I would broaden this out one additional level. Go get a major national competitor in this mix, and I think you're good to go. Um, let's bounce on down to first teacher. So says here, I'd like to hear thoughts on site so far. Only page not done is make a donation. Images need to be optimized, but that's what's on the site are planned images. Okay, so obviously, if we go to make a donation, this page is still in motion. There's going to be a donor box shape here, so we're going to ignore that one for right now. Going back to the home page, it is unfortunate that their block is still existing, but sometimes you just can't move the client off of a so-so logo, and there's lots of so-so logos out there, so I wouldn't fret over that. I do think that some of your other options were better, the bubbles particularly. First Teacher is a community of parents and caregivers working together to prepare all of our children for success in um, in kindergarten and beyond. You can get involved. I always want to go through and check all the links just to make sure things are functioning. I do like the fact that your usage of the free pick illustrations is pretty consistent. Um, this you were talking about the Squarespace overlays. I'm guessing you're meaning that photos like this are going to be are going to be touched up. Let's go to our stories. So this is our stories, and one thing I noticed earlier, I do feel like these headlines are pretty big, but I noticed earlier if I click down here on our stories, I get to the 404. So you definitely want to fix that. But I also would encourage you to create a true 404 for this page, or not for this page, for the site. So when you run into things like this, they get something back that feels like, oh, I've hit a 404 right now. Right now it's just kind of lacking. So and if you go into the panel off to the left hand side in Squarespace, you should see 404 there under pages. Let's go to mission. There's the fruit stripe, which I do think came out very nicely. I just wish it would have worked its way somehow into the branding. Game changer on 3 levels. See our programs. Okay, let's go to programs. Okay. Okay, so it looks like you've got some work to do here as well on the calendar. There's missing programs. And this is also one of those things where you want so we've talked about this before. You want to make sure they know how to update, like if you go to our team, let's see what our team looks like. So here's our team. These look pretty large as far as the names go. I would encourage you to take them down a bit. Mainly, I'm just mainly concerned if you get like one long name in here, it's going to throw everything off kilter. Let's look at the advisory council as well. Okay, so I think this size works pretty well. But again, I know that you're probably I don't know. I mean, I would just adjust it down. I think just adjusting it down future proofs it a bit. So let's look at our supporters. Yeah, this is one of those situations where I think that if you would put the content to the side and the photo to the other side, it would work better. It just becomes hard to read. You're stepping on the photo. There's a lot of text here. I would just really encourage you to take a slightly different approach for this, just because there's so much text. The other thing that you could do is you could put a little text over it and then like add the graph afterward, like something like that. But having there was another place where this is happening, and I feel like it's just not a great experience. It's not a great reading experience. I would stay away from this much text over an image. There are ways that like a headline, fine. The body copy's always going to be questionable. You're moving in between lights and darks. It's just something I'd stay away from. Let's go ahead and go to get involved. I think we may be okay. Now see, this is a pretty nice image. And it works. There's no content over the top of it I think we've seen this page though. Yeah, we have. Okay, so this is This is the other, and let's go to our mission. And see, this is kind of an example of, you know, this is a photo where there's some typo over the top of it. It's okay. It's not great. It's a lot of type, but this is less egregious to me than the one that we looked at a minute ago with where it had a headline and paragraphs of type underneath. It's just something I'd stay away from. But here, I think I'm okay with it. Yeah, so overall, we found this one broken link, but that gives us an opportunity to talk about 404 pages, and fixing that. There are a couple of image issues where I would definitely go and attempt to read about or get involved. It's kind of weird. This feels almost footer-ish. As a redirect, I'm not sure if this is just too much, but that's the other thing I'm kind of interested in. Like when I go over the about, I get the first teacher, and okay, so this is, yeah, this one's really rough. This is a situation where I would attempt to even, if you were wanting text over the top of this image, especially through here, this is almost illegible. I would consider doing a screen block or something behind it to clean that up. Otherwise, I think that you can crop this. You can crop this photo basically like this, and it's still a great photo. I don't think this information adds anything. And I think you could just like say text photo, but that would make that a lot better. Yeah, so mostly it's just here I'm seeing some image updates that are necessary, but otherwise I think you're fine. I would like to see another pass at this, and then obviously make a donation. I want to get eyes on that before we shove off from this. Okay. But otherwise, pretty good. And needs some tweaking necessary, obviously. All right, so I did want to check in here. I keep seeing notes here. So Abby, you've got a question on styling components, and should I make separate style components from the original wireframe components so the wireframes stay black and white? So here's an interesting idea. You have a lot of your wireframe. If you want to preserve your wireframe and you're worried about the components, I'm just going to use Ricardo's. So Ricardo's working over here in his exercise project, and he's got components that have been created. But if Ricardo wanted to, and he's like, hey, you know what, I'm gonna make a totally different design. Obviously, you could make variants, okay? But if you want to just like really quickly save where you're at on a particular thing, and you're worried about the connectivity to a component, I just copy paste. Like, just drop everything into a new file. There, I've got all the information that was in my existing components, but I've thrown it into a new file just for safekeeping. Okay? And now I can go in and adjust my components to my heart's content. I would rather do that than create duplicates of all my components, simply because that's a lot of work. I would rather just say, okay, my backup wireframe's over there. I can refer to it later for reference, but now I can go through and I can edit all my components. Because if you're doing this the way that I would like you to do it, you have basically built out your wireframe, and now you're going to go through and begin editing those components. I don't want you to have to worry about going through and detaching all of those components so you can save the quote wireframed version. Although the other thing you could do is you could go through and make a variant of it and say, okay, that was the black and white. Now here's the styled, and then you could go through and change. It's just how much of that work do you really want to do? Do you really need to save? Do you really need to? Do you need to have that wireframed version of the component available to you in your design system? And my answer to that is probably not. You need the final version. You don't want that wireframe version showing up somewhere later in your prototype anyway. So so I would just make a copy of your wireframe, throw it off to the side, and say, okay, that's my original. I'll come back to it if I need to. And all you have to do there is just copy and literally paste, and the whole thing will go. Back to Ricardo though, and that is a good question to bring up, Abby. Back to Ricardo, we've got your prototype, and I can see there's a lot of action happening here. So now what I want to do is I just want to kind of, before I even zoom in, I just want to kind of see what you've got from a pure prototype perspective. So we've got chicken for every occasion. I've got search in search, and I'm not sure why I've got two searches here, but that's fine. I've got strawberries, bacon, chicken, pasta, seafood, salad. I'm not sure what that's about. Okay, so I'm getting some interaction here. The arrows, they're a bit large for where they're at. They kind of feel like they're wedged into that space. The grid here isn't quite working. If I carry this up from the side, it's kind of like this information is inset within that image. Well, it's already inset within the image, but I do think that you could come down and you could place it here. I am kind of wondering, is it trying to line up with eat? I'm just trying to figure out where it's lining up. It's kind of near eat, but it doesn't feel quite like it. Let's go ahead and click on okay, so I'm just going to hit chicken. Alright, so some of this is a bit spacing related. So it looks like you've adjusted the shape here a bit, but I look at the 5 stars and gonna go back to chicken. Nope. Okay, so how do I get back? Also, I'm gonna hide the top bar and footer so we can do this a little more efficiently. I know I can hit that, but it doesn't do anything for me. Okay, so I've searched for chicken. This 5 star, the spacing here is off. I mean, basically when I'm looking at the interior spacing, I want this interior spacing to be the same all the way around. Right now this is really close to the edge. I think that, well, okay, gotta go back. Let's do this again. I'm trying to click, but I'm not quite sure what's selectable. Okay, chicken selectable. Got it. The new popular, this is a really small touch zone. So I'd want it to be, I'd want this to be more significant in size. It seems like if this is shifting, these would probably reorder. Like should be some adjustment there. If we go in here to tortilla soup, let's, this should be a personal story or recollection of this photo. Okay, so you've got trying to, okay, so one of the challenges here is, and we're gonna kind of come back through, alright, let's go back to chicken. So one of the challenges here is how do I cycle through from one to the next? How if I click this chicken, and I keep trying to click chicken because that should take me back to and then I'm having to double click. Okay, so here okay, that one went. Here I click and then I have to click again. Click. Okay, so that went, but if I click here, I have to click and click again. All right, so there's some prototyping. There's a prototyping hiccup there. Let's take a look at that. Interesting. So these are all centered up on to be on click. It should just be after a delay. If I hover, well, I get it. You're trying to say, okay, this is clickable, but then you have to click again. The interesting thing here is when I, oh, okay, so this version of it is coming back, but this should be on. Okay, so why isn't that available for on hover? It's like something's off here. While hovering's not available. Interesting. Okay, so we've got this, and now on click it takes us to this page, right? And then, yeah, I want to like disconnect that for a second and just kind of, I want to reconnect it. So here on, interesting. So you've got, there's something up with this shape that won't allow you to hover in the same manner that you have here. Like, because here, this is a while hovering, open overlay. Totally get that. While hovering. And this is, let's take a look at this shape. Interaction details. So it's as if there is a hover already here. Okay. So let's take a look at that real quick. Nope. So I'm going to take that one away. For whatever reason, it was that interaction was showing up there. So I've removed the interactions. We're just going to now add one. And now, while hovering is now available to us, open overlay, manual, and then from there it should click back. So let's take a look at that real quick. And now we come back to the start. Alright, so chicken, broccoli divine, you know, it's working now. I click it, it goes back. The thing I'm looking for there is looking for consistency. You know, because I'm not looking to come back to this page, or I'm not looking to come back to this page if I'm over here and I click the leaf. What I really would like to do, if I'm on this page, is be able to click chicken and make it back, because that's what breadcrumbs typically do. Breadcrumbs, you know, if I'm in here and I say, oh, you know what, I'm in ye old chicken, I should be able to take this. And one other fun thing that I like to do is I'm looking for page. You've called it page 2, and I'm not going to get into naming conventions at the moment, but so I'm going to sit here, add an interaction. I'm going to say on click, go to navigate to page 2, and you could do the same for home as well. But really, what I'm looking for in this is, can that get me back to page 2? Because here I can get here and I can go back to the home page. Now I can go here, go back in, I can get back to page 2. So these little navigation loops are really important when you're clicking around a prototype. So from a prototype perspective, we've fixed a couple of issues, but I'm still looking for, I need a larger touch zone here that actually impacts the order. I do think that you want this to switch. I need some greater fidelity refinements here. The spacing just isn't very good right now. When we come back over to the home page, this spacing is tight. I'm still not sure what the difference between this chicken and that chicken is. I'm looking for alignment on these items, and then as we scroll down, I am looking for I see these arrows, and I'm not sure this design is very strong right now. So I do think some additional work is needed here, to really elevate this, and I think it starts with those arrows being a little better. Also look out for spelling errors as you go through. You can't have any spelling errors in a prototype, and this is where I would encourage you to come back and utilize a plugin like, let's go search for plugins. I want to say that it is it spell checker that was the one that I liked? Yeah, okay, so let's quickly come back over here. I've got a bunch of spell checkers installed, but there was one that I used recently that I thought was pretty good by comparison. I think it was spell checker, but sometimes I just have way too many. Yeah, I did select one text layer. How about that? Yeah, this is the one I like, spell checker. So go get that, install that, and then let's just go through this document and find all the issues, okay? All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to wrap it up for today's edition of the Feedback Loop. Thanks so much to Ricardo, Abby, Bryn, and who else submitted work to Eve? Gosh, sorry. Thanks so much to everybody who participated today. I look forward to seeing all of you again. Well, I'll see some of you here in a bit. The rest of you, I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. Take care.